Shalom, shalom. Welcome back to the channel. I am an African American from Columbus, Ohio, and now I'm in Tanzania. I've been here for 2 years, but that's not what this video is about today. I want to talk about this kind of trending news topic that I'm sure you've seen with this British lady and a black news reporter. I think it was on CNN or one of those news sites. Let me know which one it was on. I don't know which one it was. I watched it, but I don't know which channel it was specifically. And so basically the British lady was saying that Africans should pay reparations to the descendants of the slave trade, right? And so I have a whole list here of things I want to say about that, because I don't want you to be fooled, and I want you to be very careful about the content you're consuming in this time as it relates to going back to Africa, because it's very strategic. And, we're just going to jump into it and break it down. If you've been following Africa for any amount of time or just looking at different news headlines, a lot of African countries and island countries have been talking about how they want reparations, specifically after Queen Elizabeth died, right? And so the talk of reparations has come back up, and it's becoming an international talk. It's not just something that's localized in one area. People are talking about it globally. Now, I'm going to go into 3 questions that you need to always ask when you're watching YouTube, when you're watching the news, when you're talking to people, anything, especially when we're talking about controversial topics like moving back to Africa. So let's get into these 3 questions. The first one is, who is telling this story? Who's telling the story? Number 2, why are they telling this story? And then number 3, what do they get out of this story? What do they get out of this narrative that they're painting? As you can tell by the title of this video, they're trying to put the Back to Africa movement in a type of direction. They're trying to shake things up for a reason. And your job right now is to ask, why would this person be saying things like this at this time? What do they get out of this? And of course, I have to come to y'all with facts, because y'all know I love to research. I love my history. And so I'm going to skip my list here and go ahead and go into a man named Olaura Equiano. He was a Nigerian slave in the 1800s, and he went to America. Now, I wish I could talk to this lady, y'all, the British lady, but here it is. If I was talking to her today, my question would be, why did Olaura Equiano, a slave taken from Nigeria to America, say in his autobiography that he was kidnapped at 11 years old? This isn't his autobiography. This is why writing and storytelling is so important. Like, we need these documents, right? He said that he was kidnapped at 11 years old. And so, of course, let's say that a few tribes sold other tribes. Sure, that could have happened, just like it did in the Bible, where Joseph's family, his brothers, his older brothers at that, sold him into slavery. And so even with that biblical account there, you can see the attitude that Joseph had to his brethren. And you can see that even though he was taken from his homeland and brought into a different land, when it was time, and you should go and read this story if you have not yet, because this is very relevant, his brothers really did sell him into slavery, and they regretted it later. And what the Most High did, Joseph went to Egypt. He was in not hard slavery. He was actually appointed as one of the top advisors in Egypt. And so when his brothers came back after the famine, he was able to bless them and to be able to provide food in the famine to not only his brothers, but to the entire world at that time. And so this narrative that somehow descendants of slavery and African Americans and diaspora should be mad at Africans and continental people because of slavery is totally absurd. And you need to ask why people want you to think this. What do people have to gain from you believing that your brothers and sisters hate you? What do they have to gain? They have to gain land, money, colonization again. They have to gain, they can come back here. And because they're here, various nations, I should take a video one day and show y'all. They have to gain a lot by you thinking that your people sold you off into slavery. The majority of your people did not sell you off into slavery. The majority of the people that were kidnapped in the slave trade were actually children. Go to slavevoyages.com or type in slave voyages. You may have to go to like number 2, 3, 4 pages of Google to find the actual website now, but I've looked at it myself, y'all. I looked into this years ago. The majority of slaves taken were children. Children. Ages from like 5 to 24. Children. And if you've ever been to Africa, if you've lived in Africa here, or at least in Tanzania, someone is technically considered like a child or still seen as youthful up until the time they're around 24. They still live in their parents' household and things like that. And so colonizers, they come in, they see children on the street, they take them. Why can't they take older adults? Why can't they take 30 and 40-year-olds? Sure, there were a few 30 and 40-year-olds in that, but why can't they take them, right? They're stronger, they're going to fight back. When you're kidnapping someone, just like today, human trafficking is big across the world, and the people they're taking are children. It's no different. It's the same exact thing. And so the British and, the Dutch, whoever, all the people want you to think that your people sold you into slavery. And that's just not the full reality, the full picture. You also have to consider that there are a lot of different tribes in Africa. We see Africa as like this country, Africa, but it's not. Africa is 54 countries. It's an entire continent. And I assure you, it's much bigger than you think. Like, it's huge. And so there's a lot of different tribes. And so if at times tribes sold other tribes, it wasn't seen as these are my people. It literally was, this is a tribe that we don't get along with. This is a neighboring tribe that we don't get along with. And so if that did happen, when that did happen, which wasn't much, it was mostly kidnapping that happened. But if and when that did happen, they were seen as enemies, and that would have been the reason that they went into slavery. Now, I want to fast forward because we're talking about like early slave days a lot, going on the boats, all that. Now, let's fast forward to when African Americans end up in England, Spain, America, all these different places, and why reparations are not to be paid by African countries and African leaders. So, as most of us know, not only did slavery happen from the 1600s to like the 1800s and in some places more recent than that, but after slavery, a lot of institutionalized racism happened. So we had Jim Crow, we had Willie Lynch, we had all kinds of things. Even up to this day, you have workplace racism, you have just bold murder out, being recorded for the globe to see. And so the idea, I'm sorry, y'all, it's so funny. The idea that African leaders and African nations owe any money to anyone is completely absurd, especially since directly after slavery is when colonization happened. So that just knocks that whole idea off the table. I want you to be thinking here. Go back to those 3 questions. Who is telling the narrative? Why are they telling the narrative? And what do they gain from this narrative? So that should completely dispel that for you. But I just basically took the curtain from out your eyes and let you see this. Next, I want to talk about 4 ways that you need to prepare for this next season, because we are in very serious times. We are in very interesting times. And although we're not in the slave days and we're not literally physically fighting right now, that may happen later, but right now we're not doing that. There are a lot of things going on behind the scenes, and the war right now is media and the way you think. So I want to introduce you to 4 thought processes that you need to have right now, today. Like, write these down. I want you to create more than you consume. Create more than you consume. When you're consuming a lot of news and content and just doing a lot of reading and listening and TV and all these things that are fun, it's not fun. It's indoctrination. So I want you to stop listening to stuff so much and create something instead of consuming so much. And so for me, I write a lot. I write poems. I write for work. I write books. I just write things. I write a lot of things. And so for you, that may be drawing. Maybe you draw. So instead of watching people draw on TV and watching YouTube videos about drawing, start actually doing the thing. Or if you're a designer, design more, right? Whatever your specific talent is, do that more in this season, because that's going to be the key to unlock prosperity and wealth during this upcoming world famine and the things that are going to happen in the world. The Most High gave you talents and he gave you things, and they're not to sit there and to be void and in vain. It's not just to sit there and sit on. Do something with it and it will bless you. Next, I want you to love your neighbor as yourself, especially when you get here in Africa. I want you to really look at Africa, see your people, see the people in Africa, even see the leaders in Africa. Have empathy and have understanding for what's going on in the world right now, right? Because that is going to be the key to having success on the continent. This is the differentiator with people who have success in Africa and those who don't. The ones that have success in Africa know how to read the room, so to speak, in Africa, to see what's going on behind closed curtains, to understand what leaders... Sorry, guys, I had to take that off because Josiah's here. But to understand what leaders in the nations are actually going through, that way, when you do have an opportunity to speak with chiefs and, land people and elders and all these things, then you come across as educated because, one, you did your research. Two, you obviously show that you care about the people, because this isn't like a one-way street where everybody rolls out the red carpet for you because you're from the diaspora. No. You need to provide value, you need to show you care, and you need to be a valuable asset to society or a village or a tribe or wherever you want to go and whatever you want to be in Africa. We already talked about understanding the times we're in. We know about the pandemic thing, the demic, the sickness thing, modern day slavery, right, and past slavery. And then we're currently going through a race for Africa. So all the nations that you can think of, check out Psalms 83. All the nations that you can think of are strategizing to take over Africa. And it's not going to be successful. It's really not. But the reason that they want you to stay out of it is because if you get back here with your brothers and sisters, y'all gonna start thinking, y'all gonna start talking and putting one and two together and having conversations and realizing, oh, we are not our enemies. There's a third party here that wants us to be enemies. Who is that third party? Fourth and last, this is the most important when you're thinking about coming to Africa, the Back to Africa movement, and you want to escape Babylon. Have a freedom mindset. And that's a very ambiguous way to say it. So think of it like this. Be free. I want you to be free from healthcare insurance premiums. I want you to be free from car insurance premiums that are outrageously high. I want you to be free from debt. I want you to be free from lack. I want you to be free from poverty. I want you to be free to think, like to sit down and listen to yourself think, to have freedom just to think and to critically think, and to not have any overbearing burdens on you, like random things that you believe that aren't true. That's why in the Bible, the Messiah, Yahusha, who many call Jesus Christ, said, take my yoke, my burden, it's easy and it's light. Because there are a lot of things the world wants you to believe, and the world wants you to do this and do that and buy this house and do this thing and go do that and buy this land and go, build the biggest enterprise in the world. And I want you to really think and plan out what you want your life to look like. You don't need a lot of money to move to Africa, but you need to have some money, especially coming in month to month, right? I want you to think freedom minded. This is the chance for freedom. And we are at a wonderful point in the world, a wonderful time. We really are, if you can see it, if your eyes are open, because things are changing on the continent. We're reconnecting with our people. It's just amazing. And there's a lot of things that go on off camera. There's so many people that are back in Africa and have been here since the 60s and 70s. And just they're low key, like nobody knows they're here except them and the villages and the communities they're in. And so think forward, hatch your Africa plan, back to Africa plan, do your movement, do whatever you need to do to get back here. As you guys have seen, I hope you've seen this now, the airplane tickets are very, very expensive. They're about twice as much as they were when we came 2 years ago. So if you have any money at all to leave Babylon, take your last bit and get on that plane. Get on the plane. Be fearless and be ready for freedom, and test the thought processes that you have. Test the people that tell you these narratives. If it's your cousin, your grandma, your friend, your coworkers, whoever it is, test the narratives to see why they're telling you these things. Why does the news want you to think this? Who has been telling you these things? Could it be that it's somebody from a different nation that wants to control things that are going on in Africa? And so that's why they don't want you here? Where there's a will, there's a way. Check out the links in the description. If you don't know who Olaudah Equiano is, check that out because these are facts that I'm telling you. Yeah, just check out all the links in the description. I'm sure there's something there that will provide supreme value for you. Until next time, you want to say anything to the people?
Shalom, guys. This is very important.
I'm done.
Make sure you stay with this.
Wow.
I don't know what she's talking about in this video, but
Just say what you want. Let's see if it lines up.
we are in the times of focus. Always look up. Make sure you're always looking up, and I mean to the Most High, Abba Yah, Yahuwah. And don't be distracted by these other nations. So just make sure you know your source. That's very important. Just make sure you know your source and where it's coming from. And be diligent in these times. Stay focused. Put your energy in the right places. And yeah, don't listen to the nonsense, because if you listen to it, you'll just be distracted and been in a big circle. So you got to break that circle to go to the next level. So stay focused. Stay focused, family. All praises.
You heard him. Stay focused. Yes. That was right on topic. Great.
I don't say a lot. I don't say a lot. That's what I gotta say. So just listen to what I gotta say. This is very important. Shalom.
Shalom.